welcome to Municipal Focus. This particular program that we have, we talk a lot about some of the things that are going on in the communities we serve. It also could be issues, items, laws, legislation. We have a special guest today. And it's very important if you are an employer and an employee too, because it affects you as well. There's a new law that's coming online, and it's going to be in the works in September and October. Are you, as an employer, are you ready? Well, we have a specialist here today. We have Erin Andrews. Erin is the president of Stratlign, and this is an accounting firm, and she's here to give us all the details as to the understanding, because this is what her organization does. Welcome to Municipal Focus.
Thanks for having me.
First, I would ask you is when did you learn about this law, and what has it been like for you and your organization to kind of get up to speed and to be able to share it with some of the folks that you work with?
So we heard about it probably back in tax season, actually, and a little bit in 2018, and then the first quarter of this year, so around the winter. And honestly, I didn't really believe it. Sometimes these laws come down and you just sort of think it's fantasy in a way, but we really took it, we realized it was coming, and then right after April 15th, our huge deadline, we took a little workshop on it, and I realized it's really coming. And the original deadline was actually June 1st. So we were scrambling because we had to get certain paperwork out to clients and all that, and fortunately they did delay it till September 1st, or October 1st and September 1st, but our main objective was always to educate our clients and obviously learn as much as we can about the law. And for the past, I think the past 2 months, we've gotten a lot more details from the state, but prior to that, it was really hard to get information about it.
And the law that we're talking about is the Paid Family Leave Act. Technically, it's the Paid Family and Medical Leave Law that has been signed, and this gives someone up to 12 weeks to care for a family member and up to 20 for a person's own illness. Talk to me about it as far as what happens now, because I was amazed. You and I have had a previous conversation about this, and I was amazed at how this is starting and who it affects. What starts between September and October, and what are we generating it towards? Because while these benefits are something that everybody can share in, it's not something that they're going to share in immediately.
Nope. So between September and October, that's just really notifying your, they're called employees, and right now qualified workers, because actually some subcontractors come under this. So a 1099 recipient, that's an individual. So right now it's notifying them and getting a signed form that they acknowledge it, and letting them know that tax is going to be coming out of their paychecks. So the tax will start withholding, or employers need to start withholding the tax October 1st from the employee's paycheck. If you have over 25 employees, it's a different requirement. Employers do need to contribute a percentage, but employees can't actually use the benefits until January 1st of 2021 for themselves, and then I believe it's July 1st of 2021 for a family member. So it's a while before. So they're trying to pay in a bank, I think, and get the funds going before people start collecting on it, because they do think a lot of people will use it right away.
Yeah, that is interesting, because that was one of the things that during our conversation, like, so this is something that someone can use immediately. Where is this funding coming from? So what's happening is the savings that are going away. How will when this starts happening, when it's coming out of someone's check? Is there any idea as to the percentage, or how does that work?
So the percentage, it's kind of complicated. So there's different types of percentages. So it depends on how many employees you have. So under 25, it's 0.75% of their wages. But then and the employer does not have to contribute towards that at all. The employer can opt to contribute, or actually fund the entire thing if they want. They don't have to withhold it from the employee's paycheck, like as an added benefit. And then over 25, the employer has to contribute an additional amount. So they actually changed that percentage as well when they moved it from June 1st to October 1st. So that might have also been a motivation to move it, because they increased the rate. I forget by how much, by maybe 0.12%. But so yeah, employees won't see it's not going to be a huge deduction taken for their paycheck. It's just if an employer doesn't comply, then they'll be the ones that have to be responsible for paying it. And payroll can add up quickly for an employer. So if they're not withholding it, it can cost an employer a lot of money.
My goodness. So there could be penalties that you are assessed by the state if you're not keeping up with this and making sure that what if your employees are eligible for this particular benefit.
So no one is exempt. No employees are exempt. The subcontractors is a test you can do for subcontractors. But yeah, so if you don't withhold it as an employer, you are going to be required to pay it in regardless. So when you report the wages, you have to report the employees each quarter. And if you haven't withheld the tax, it's on you to do it. It's all the employer's responsibility.
So my understanding, just reading here, who's eligible for all Massachusetts W-2 employees. So that's whether you're full-time, part-time, seasonal, union represented or not, any age. What if somebody works at a restaurant? Are they eligible for it, or maybe not so much?
So yeah, so let's say you have a 17-year-old that worked at a restaurant for one day, you have to withhold the tax on them.
My goodness.
Yes, and owners also are part of this. So owners cannot exempt themselves from the withholding tax. There's a very, very small list of people that are exempt. I think it's children of owners of the business that are under 18. There's a few things here and there, but for the most part, it's every single employee.
What are the folks that you work with? What are they saying? What are some of the questions that you were hearing from the folks that you provide service to in regards to this? Do you have like a list of frequently asked questions where they've heard about and they're like, oh my goodness, what do I do? What seems to be the top thing that you're being asked by folks who contract through you?
So I think the confusion is the count, how you actually figure out what your employee count is. That's confusing because right now it's called a look-back period. Is the calendar year of 2018. So if you're a company that has on average, let's say 11 employees just right now you have 11 employees, but you have a high turnover or a fairly high turnover, the count is actually your total employees in 2018. So if you have an average of 11 employees, but you have a fairly high turnover and you have over 25 W-2s, you're considered over 25 for the count. So that's been kind of confusing for people, as well as the subcontractor piece, which is a big piece. A lot of people, we have a very high contractor base. And Massachusetts in general, I think, especially in this area and on the Cape and Islands, there's a lot of contractor trades. That's very concerning for people because now they have to withhold tax on subcontractors, and figuring out that is really confusing. I actually just called the state 2 days ago because if you have to withhold tax on a subcontractor, IRS rules require that you report a 1099 for them for wages and materials paid. So now are we withholding tax on subcontractors that we're paying materials on, and they couldn't give me the answer. So yeah, it's mostly the count and then just how to go about withholding it and making sure it's reported properly. All of our clients are on some type of payroll system. I think we might have a couple that do it in-house and they'll on their own, but they'll be moving it. I don't suggest people do it on their own.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe this is in its infancy and maybe it's something that'll be better explained by the state, but when someone wants to take family leave or they want to take a medical leave, is there a system in place yet for someone to be able to do that?
No. No, there's guidance. So So right now they're focusing on this part of the law and getting that going and off the ground. But so since it's not till January 1st of 2021, we expect to get a lot more guidance on the actual taking the leave. But as of right now, there is no waiting period. So someone can work for you for one day and then go take this paid leave. Yes, they do have to have it goes under the same guidelines as Massachusetts unemployment. They do have to follow other requirements where they were employed for I think 3 months and earned a minimum of $4,700 in those past 3 months, I believe it is. But for you, if they're working for someone else, they come with you. They can work one day and take this leave. And as an employer, I really don't recommend denying it because that's not really it's just a bad idea. Like, and the employee doesn't have to offer, as of right now, certification, meaning something from a doctor or a specialist saying that they're allowed to take that leave for 90 days after that leave starts. So, and that is provided to the state, and then the state will deal with that.
So let's talk about the family leave. So who are some of the folks who can use these benefits under the family leave portion of it?
So if a woman has a baby, let's say, I think that's probably going to be one of the most popular, which is, I think that's a really great part of the law. But so if a woman has a baby, she can take up to 20 weeks for her own leave, and then a spouse can actually then take up his own leave. So, but if they work for the same employer, he can't take as much leave as his spouse. But so that will be very beneficial. If you are caring for a loved one, a family member, you can take up to 12 weeks. If they're in the military, you can take up to 26 weeks. So if you have someone that came home from active duty, you need to take time off to care for them, you can do 26 weeks. So I think it's very altruistic at heart, like where it comes from. It's great. I mean, it's really, really hard for small businesses to offer paid leave, paid medical leave. And so for someone to be able to have that, it's actually great. And employers, if you are a single employer, you don't have employees or anything like that, you can actually opt in and pay into the system for yourself, which if that was me, I would actually do it too. Because as a small business owner, it's just you. This actually would give you some income when you wouldn't have it if something were to happen to you. It might actually keep you afloat.
What's your understanding as far as, so let's say once this is enacted, somebody is able to start drawing from in 2021 and be able to draw for 12 weeks or maybe up to 26 weeks. Is that something that an individual is taxed on? Do we know that yet? So is it almost like you mentioned unemployment benefits? Well, if you take unemployment benefits, that's counted as revenue and as income, and you have to pay taxes on that.
Yeah. So how short-term disability? I'm viewing this as short-term disability. Short-term disability, if you're having it withheld from your paycheck, that comes out as what's considered post-tax. So something that's pre-tax is health insurance. So that you don't have any Social Security, Medicare, federal income tax withheld on that money. This should be post-tax. So what that means is when you take the benefits, you should not have to pay any tax on it. That's how short-term disability works. So that's, I'm hoping, goes right in the same method. So you also have to make sure as the employer, you're withholding it from your employees' paychecks properly. So you have to make sure your systems are set up properly. Because if you're withholding it pre-tax and they receive those benefits, they really should pay tax on that income. But for right now, it should not be taxable to those employees.
So my other question is this something that someone will pay, employees will actually pay into, that it's until you retire, it's never ending, that there's not a spigot per se, that you're always going to be paying into this, and there will never be any topping off?
As far as I know, no. There's no topping off. And then like mass unemployment, there's a $15,000 wage base, meaning employers pay into unemployment up to $15,000 of each employee's wages. There is no wage cap on this. So you just keep paying in every year. But the benefits you can take every single year. So you can take, yes. So,
really?
Yeah, so annually you could take up to 20 weeks every single year if you have a certified illness. Yes.
Okay. But this is something, though, again, if you're working for an employer, are they going to want to be losing their employee? I mean, while it's a fantastic benefit to be able to do that, I mean, a lot of organizations will grant, depending on the amount of tenure, if you're there for a certain amount of time, you get 1 week of vacation, yay. If you're there for, say, 3 years, you get 2 weeks. After 5, you get 3. But this seems like it adds another dynamic, if I'm incorrect here.
It does. And so that's kind of where I guess a lot of the issue comes in. You can't, employers cannot like force their employees to take their paid time off before they depend. So they can't exhaust their paid time off and then use this. So when the employee comes back from their paid leave, they technically will still have whatever benefits they had from their employer too. So an employer cannot discriminate against someone taking, and they really have no choice. It is what it is. So.
Okay. Do we know what was the genesis of this law as to why it was put into effect? Do you have an understanding?
I'm not exactly sure. I know that they're very employee friendly in Massachusetts. I mean, the minimum wage is going up to $15 a year. It's going up $1 a year. And so it starts at $13 this January. I mean, I think it comes from a really good place. I forget who they were inspired by, but I'm not sure exactly where it came from, but it is a good benefit to offer this, but I'm not positive where it came from.
Okay. We mentioned, as far as the family leave, the 12 weeks with the exception, the medical leave. And this is not only yourself, but is there other reasons why you could take a medical leave?
So, I mean, I think medical leave can be a broad spectrum of issues. So, mental health. There's also federal FMLA too. There's PFMLA and FMLA. They have different leave requirements based on or allowances based on employer size and employee size. So if you're over 50, then they have like domestic violence and all that. So it's mainly just medical leave. And however, I guess I would assume the doctor would say whatever kind of disability that is or short-term issue that you have.
Do we know that if there has to be some kind of a legality to this, if you did say, I want to take a medical leave, that there would need to be some kind of confirmation from a medical professional?
So right now we just know we'd have to get certification 90 days after the leave starts. So I bet you that the state will come up with a form, because they have not yet, to my knowledge, that you have to give to your healthcare professional, that they have to fill out, and they have to submit to the state for review just to make sure you qualify. So I don't know how that falls under HIPAA, but
it could be interesting.
Yes.
Definitely could be interesting. I know we've kind of talked in regards to tax purposes, knowing that when we had the Affordable Care Act put into place, it's interesting that what you see on your paycheck for the amount of money, what your gross and your net is, a part of it that's kind of segmented off is the amount that you may pay in. Would there be something like that for everybody when it comes to payroll? Will there be a box that's on your paycheck that says?
Yes, it should. Yes, I would hope so. Yes, so it should say, however someone codes it, PFMLA or FMLA, just tax. So you'll see federal, Massachusetts withholding for obviously Massachusetts, Social Security, Medicare, and then that tax. So that's how I think that's how employees will all of a sudden realize that it's happening, because a lot of employers don't know about this law. If some payroll companies are starting the deductions automatically, which they should, like larger companies like Paychex, ADP, they're probably just going to start withholding the tax automatically. And a lot of employers probably won't get those forms signed and notify their employees. And all of a sudden, because employees do study their paychecks, and they're going to say, what is this tax? And all of a sudden, I have a feeling like 2 weeks into October, November, we're going to, a lot of accounting offices and payroll companies are going to get a lot of phone calls from employers and employees saying, what is this tax? I knew nothing about it. So,
do you find yourself, since this has gone into effect and as you're getting up to speed and sharing that information with companies, do you find yourself training? Maybe there might be someone who does in-house payroll, and then they're coordinating with your organization as far as accounting goes. You find yourself where you're showing organizations who might do in-house payroll?
Not as much, because I think what's happening just with, Massachusetts has implemented so many changes in the past 5-7 years with the sick leave law. There's an EMAC penalty, then this. Now it's almost detrimental for someone to do it in-house. So if anything, we're helping people. Our goal is to help people educate within companies so they know what to do, the compliance side, and help them with that. But for the actual processing of payroll, most people are actually just handing it off to the professionals to make sure we know what we're doing and done it right.
How about as far as training? Are you finding your organization doing a lot of trainings in what to watch for, what to look for as companies, and getting them on board? Has your organization been doing that?
Training our clients and,
Yes.
and the public? Yes. So
Yeah.
we have done a few in-person workshops regarding this law, and we just did a webinar this past week, and we have a few more in the works for September. In my experience, dealing with small businesses and the owners, they tend to wait till the very last minute to learn about things. Last minute sometimes means 2 weeks after the law starts or 2 months. But so we think that the workshops and the webinars will be much more crowded and popular in September or late September. We're probably going to have a few in October too, just to be like, okay, it started. You want to know about it now? So yeah.
Give me the pros and cons between the workshops where you're there with the people and the webinars, because I've done both.
Yeah.
And both of them have their pros and their cons.
So what we try to do with our in-person workshops is, well, I think it's more personal, and people can ask questions more and maybe relate more to their business. Also, after with the in-person workshops, well, towards the end, we like to do a roundtable discussion, so employers can get together and we give them a few questions to ask them, so they can discuss amongst themselves how this law will affect them, what they can do internally, what their problems are, what they foresee being issues. So that's been really beneficial, I think. The webinar, I think, is really convenient. So we had a really good turnout for the webinar. They can do it at lunchtime. We have a lunchtime webinar. Anybody can, it's easier for another team member, staff member, or employee to hop in on it. So if they want to hear it rather than going to a physical location. And we're also recording them, so they can watch it after. I mean, webinars are great. They just don't get that
personalized feeling.
Yeah. I mean, we take questions. It's just harder to people. Also, it's harder for people to word questions when they're typing too. So
if you're below 20 words a minute or whatever, it's like, oh, this person's still typing. What's going on? I mean, the older population, isn't it? That adept as far as the younger folks who could really, type up a storm.
Yeah. I know. I'm a fast texter.
Yeah.
But I think that I really like the in-person ones, and I really like the webinars. It really, I guess, just depends on you. I think if you don't get something out of the one thing you attended, maybe you should check out the other just to reinforce the laws, what your knowledge of it. So that's why we're offering more of them coming up.
And I think it's worth noting now, and if Paul, you don't mind putting it up, we're going to put your website up. I would think that if you're going to be having any more seminars or webinars, the folks can check out the website, Stratlign.com. It's not. If you're hearing this, please look at the screen because it's spelled quite differently. Where should they go on the website to be able to look for information about this, and even look for information about upcoming webinars?
So we have a link in there under Tools and Resources. It might even be on the homepage. I haven't looked at it recently, to be honest, but we also have a very good social media presence. So Facebook, Instagram, that's where we had a lot of our events, so people could register for the events too. So if you follow us at Stratlign on Facebook or at Instagram, LinkedIn, those are great resources as well. So on our website, we have it's the presentation is all there, so the webinar one and the in-person one's there, and then the facts, the poster that you need to hang up in your office or your business, and the forms that your employees need to sign are also all on our website too. So, yes.
Time usually goes fast when we're sitting here and having a good conversation.
Exciting stuff.
We just have a couple of minutes left here. Is there something that I haven't asked you in regards to this new law that's going to be rolling out in September and October, what you feel is important to letting the folks who are watching right now know about?
Well, if they haven't heard about it, I really suggest looking into educating yourself about it and not ignoring it and kind of procrastinating, and a lot of times when these laws come out, they rely on their professionals, like their accountants, their bookkeepers, payroll providers, to do it for them. This is something that, yes, they can help you with it, but you actually need to know about it. They need to go ahead and do stuff within, themselves, with their own employees. The other thing is, if they have questions about the 1099 requirement, the state, I guess, is getting very overwhelmed, and there is a chance that they might actually eliminate that part, which would be huge. I think it would be great. There is on our website, if you go there, you can actually click on a link and submit your own questions. They're really, really good about answering, which is surprising. But the more questions you ask about the 1099, because they're not going to remove the employee responsibility, but the more questions you ask about the 1099, the subcontractor issue, the more they'll get overwhelmed and maybe be encouraged not to have that as part of the law. They do have up until September 30th to issue the final regulations. I don't even believe they'll be final, but so they could nix some of it as of September 30th, which would be helpful for the 1099. But so educate yourself, and if you do have questions, you can go right to our website, click on the link, and ask questions directly to the state, or they can call us.
I was just going to ask you that because I know a lot of websites these days are very intuitive, whether it's a website or an app where you can click on. Is your website adept where there is somebody, if you can ask
chat.
a question, or maybe there's somebody there who, if they'll pop up and go, oh, you have a question, or is that, or like I think you just said, you have a link that goes right to the state where there is somebody who can help them almost immediately.
So we don't have a chat feature yet. We're actually working on that. But on Facebook, if you reach out that way, the instant message, the DM, I'm told it is today. I was corrected.
Who
But
did that?
I don't. Someone younger than me, but
Okay.
that's fine. But the one with the state that goes directly to the state. But you can ask us the questions, and I like asking the state, and I have no problem picking up the phone and calling the state either. But call us. We probably speak the language better than the state to our clients. So sometimes it's too complicated and technical speaking to the state too. So, yes.
Well, Erin, I want to thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, this is great.
We look forward to maybe we can have you back.
Yeah.
Maybe after October. Maybe do a little bit of a follow-up. Maybe we'll have some clarity
Yep.
as to what the state has done to kind of tighten up some of the regulations and what the expectations are going to be of this new Massachusetts paid family and medical leave law that is going into effect in the next couple of months. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much for tuning in to Municipal Focus. Until our next show, where we do our best to inform you, have a great day.